Hello, everyone, and welcome to Shaper Sessions. My name is Jake.
And I'm Russ.
And they just surprised us going live again, but this is keeping it interesting.
Now, today we're talking about mortise and tenons.
Yes, this is something that we've touched on a lot, but never directly.
And we've gotten a lot of emails about it in our new email address, sessions@shapertools.com. We've gotten a couple of requests to do a show on this, and why not now?
Exactly.
Mortise and tenons are the classic joint, I would say, with Origin. We love them.
Yeah, I feel like we're doing them every day in some capacity, and they are a breeze to do with Origin. It makes it quite a treat.
So today we're going to show you how to cut those using on-tool design. You design your mortise and tenons directly on Origin. We are fixturing with the workstation. You cut with Origin, no computers required. And then we're going to go into advanced mode. We've got a Shaper Studio demo for you that shows you how to do some advanced mortise and tenon stuff, some fun stuff, and we've got a special guest.
Yeah. That's the thing with using Origin, you no longer are tied to that kind of classic tenon shape. So later on, we're going to get a little wild with it. So throw out the ideas of a traditional tenon.
Yeah. While we're up here presenting, we got a couple things that we like to do every show. Obviously, there's the Q&A. If you're watching live, we're going to do a Q&A session live at the end of this show. If you're watching on demand on YouTube, make sure to join us live for the next show so you can take part in that. We also have our poll.
Yes.
That's going to ask a question. You know, frankly, I have no idea what the question is this week, so it's going to be a nice surprise. But we are going to do a giveaway for anyone who answers that question. And today we're going to give away some router bits.
Yes.
We use a couple really good ones in this show. I used one really good one to prep for this show. That's our 5mm O-flute that roughs through 19mm ply.
I thought I heard that
in one pass. I did it today for the first time, and we're going to show off this three-legged so far. We're going to cut the fourth tenon later today, this kind of dog bowl stand project, and I cut this whole thing before the show with that 5mm O-flute just ripping right through it. It was incredible.
That's wild.
And then we'll pick the other ones as we go.
Cool.
Ask the Q&A, answer the poll question.
Yeah.
And have fun, right?
Exactly.
We're here to learn about woodworking and share everything that we know about mortise and tenons.
Yes. First and foremost, it's actually when you're using Origin, cutting a mortise and tenon is in the reverse order as you would traditionally do it with normal shop tools. Everyone, I have to reverse everyone's mindset. Normally, you would cut the mortise and then the tenon second and trim the tenon to fit. But here in Origin land, we always cut the tenon first and the mortise we can trim to fit, because it's a lot easier for us to micro adjust that mortise, which we will get into.
It's easier to bring that tenon to the mortise too.
True. Yeah.
So without further ado, that's tip number one, but let's just cut a tenon, and then we can get into some of the technical details. Cutting's the fun part.
Yeah. So I have some of this material, what we're working with.
Cherry, and I wrote the dimensions on it.
Yeah,
it's kind of funny. It's 1 1/16 by 1 7/8.
All right. So I have this in my workstation. If you want to show up my setup there, Ned. From down below. There we go. We're clamped in. I have gone ahead and grid off of the back side of my stock and the left side. This is a nice and especially repeatable way to grid off of stock and workstation versus touching off on the front face. This is kind of thickness agnostic. It's nice and repeatable because that clamping face is not going to change. Let's go ahead and hop over into our Create tab, rectangle, and what did you say that dimension was?
Well, the width of the whole piece is 1 7/8. So we could do some math on that. I like tenons that are about 2/3 the length of the part.
Yeah.
So we could do 1 7/8 times 2/3.
7/8 is
0.875.
875 divided by 3. Beautiful. Look at that. Does that feel right?
That's 1/3.
That feels too small. Yeah.
Let's do 2/3.
Times 2.
But you can use your intuition and tune as you go.
But it's nice to be able to use that calculator on the fly. All right, height is
Let's say a 1/2 inch for this.
1/2 inch, 0.5. All right, there's our tenon. We're grabbing it in a funky spot, so let's go ahead and grab the center anchor and use that position feature. Again, we're working in that land of 16ths with this particular stock, so instead of changing the size of your grid, which you can do, and just kind of tick over in 16th inch increments, we're going to use position and just tell it where to go.
And that would be 1.062 divided by 2.
1.062
to get to the center of that stock.
There we go.
That's for the Y height.
Oops. Make it negative because we're going down below. And for the X, it is
1.875 divided by 2.
There we go. All right. So that's centered it in our piece. Tap that green button to place and change to an outside. I'm using the 8mm bit, which is nice because it almost goes all the way to my edge, but not quite. It still leaves a little bit of extra material here that I need to clear away. Did we want to use AutoPass on this?
Yeah, we want to use AutoPass for sure. And
Beautiful.
what do you think about throwing some rounded corners on that?
Ah, yes.
While we're at it.
Darn.
Once you copy it, you can't add rounded corners.
You can't add rounded quarters. Okay, bear with me, folks. Size was...
Okay. What are we talking about? The width?
Yeah, because I have to recreate it.
All right, 1.875 times 2 divided by 3. There we go.
Bingo.
Okay. Height, 0.5. Let's add a radius on that. Let's just go for a 1/4 inch radius. Make that a nice like lozenge or a pill shape. That'll make sure that we can get that 8mm router bit into those corners.
And
position.
Point. .625 divided by 2. I did that again.
What are we talking? The X?
Yeah.
1.875 divided by 2 for the center.
And the
And
Y
then this is 1.0625 divided by 2. There we go.
Whew.
That's a tenon.
This is cruel to...
I shouldn't have done those 16ths. That's on me, everybody. That's on me. Shouldn't have done those 16ths.
We're done. All right. Now we can go in, change that to an outside, and thanks to AutoPass, we can adjust this with our roughing pass to give us a nice big roughing offset.
Yeah, let's add a good one. What do you think for that?
Let's do like
0.1 inch?
Let's see what 0.1 looks like.
It's pretty good. Going to have to clean up those corners just a little bit.
Yeah, but that's all right. And we want to go down to 3/4 of an inch. All right, let's boogie.
Cool. Quick
Always
Z-touch.
Quick Z-touch.
I'm going to hop off to the side here so that we don't get blown out by the router noise, as always, while Jake's cutting this tenon. Before AutoPass came out with Origin, we would punch in these depths manually, but AutoPass is a real time saver and also an error saver here where you don't have to punch in those depths. You can see Jake's just going right around this and cruising. You don't have to stop between passes with AutoPass, and it's pretty nice. Gonna go down to the final depth and then come in for that finishing pass. And it looks like he's already done.
Super easy. But it's left us with these towers. So we need to get rid of these. Couple ways to do it. One, using offsets and give yourself a really large offset to just nip those corners. Or you can make kind of a large pocketed area and kind of blindly go through it. Right? There's a risk to that, though. And I'd like to illustrate the risk.
What's the risk? I feel like I don't even know what the risk is.
If I make a pocketed shape here, I can pocket this entire area and clear this out, but it will still let me accidentally cut into my tenon.
Okay.
Right? Because that pocket encompasses all of it. We're going to go into how to design a pocket that doesn't let you do that in Studio later on. But for the sake of this, let me just go ahead and clear these little bits.
Okay. Sounds good.
There we go.
All right, let's pull that out. We got a tenon, everybody. How easy was that? No table saw shenanigans. No chiseling required.
There we go. We'll show that right here.
Yeah, a little bit down. Nice.
Beautiful. This is cut to a 0-inch offset, so it is true to size. Keep that in mind, because when we move to cut the mating part, that's where we start messing with that offset.
Yeah, let's talk about that, and let's talk about kind of mortise and tenon setup with Origin a little bit more broadly. We have a couple of things that we wanted to touch on. One was one thing that I saw you do right at the beginning, Jake, and that was grid on Workstation's clamping face, and then all the way to the left where your part was registered against those locating pins, those Y-axis locating pins.
That's it. Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about that. When you're designing a mortise and tenon, it is very important, especially if you are not completely confident in the thickness of your stock, to make sure that you're using the same reference faces across the board. Now, if these two parts are supposed to go together like this, and we've got these two faces facing you as the reference faces, and they're kind of an odd size, if I put that tenon in the middle, like we had, and flip this part using this face as the reference face, when they go together like this, they might be a little bit askew.
Yep.
Right? And that's something to do with the dimensions not matching up with what you think the dimensions are. You know, we measure everything before we load it up, but really the best way to keep track of that is by keeping track of your reference faces and then gridding on the permanent faces of Workstation, and that's that clamping face and then those side locating pins.
Yeah, I don't even need to regrid after this, actually. It's the beautiful part. Take that piece that we're going to mortise into, firmly up against my clamping face.
Let's show that on the Workstation cam one more time.
Up against, flat up against the top, and against that registration pin.
And since those are the two alignment features that Jake gridded against, this piece is going to have that exact same alignment. Now, we go into this specific topic in a lot of depth in our stock chair session and in the stock chair premium project. So if you want to learn a lot more about reference faces and how to keep track of those, I'd highly recommend checking out that premium project.
Yeah, if you want to have mortise and tenon drilled into your memory, make that project. It's a fantastic project. By the end of it, you will feel so confident with making mortise and tenons. You'll be unstoppable.
Now, I saw you just clamp on Workstation, Jake, and I also want to touch on the types of clamps that we use today. Sure. We've got a couple of clamps that we use on Workstation. We've got the toe clamps that come with it, and that's these over here. But for rectangular stock like this, especially long, straight stuff, I really like these F-style clamps.
Yeah. I was doing these for expediency's sake since I already had them in the clamping face. So it really depends. These are fantastic because I can kind of pitch them in any direction if I'm grabbing odd-shaped things. And I like these because they stay straight in the sense of, like, I don't have to worry about them tilting around. So it depends on the application. But for right now, these are perfect.
And we talked about reference faces. We talked about alignment. You aligned that kind of nice rectangular piece with the side alignment pin, the front clamping face of workstation, and that support bar as your top registration. Now, we've got an example over here, and we've done a whole session on this one as well, of kind of a funny piece to clamp, right?
Yes.
Look at that.
Yeah.
But if you look at this, that's a mortise right there. So the question is, how would you align this? You have to make a fixture.
Yep.
And that's what this is. This fixture bolts to the front face of workstation, so you still get that nice plane of alignment on your reference face. It flips so that you can actually not just align this side, but you can also, see if I've got this right, you can align this side and cut this mortise as well. It's all built in there. And then this clamps to the front of workstation with the M8, I think, threaded holes that are in the front there that we don't use very often, but they're really handy for fixtures like this.
Yeah, we don't. But the layout of those holes can be found in, well, one, in the book that comes with your workstation, as well as a hub file, I believe. You can download all the hole and the pin locations from ShaperHub.
Yep, on ShaperHub.
Okay.
Not to interrupt too much, I see you getting ready to set up a part here.
Yeah, I'm just going to add to scan for this because I want to be able to see what I'm working on. Not create a new scan. Add to scan. There we go. And now I could technically leave this exactly where it is. Which I just might do. Or I could copy it. Use that position feature and move it down the road so we're making more of a T-shaped. Let's call that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
5 inches.
That's great. Now, did we lose that Y position when you did that?
We did.
Okay, so that's going to
Try
be...
to redo this.
It's all good. We can math it again.
I'd rather not. I'm terrible with math live on camera.
Okay. Yeah, let's just add 4 inches to that X dimension or something like that.
There we go. We kept our Y. Place. And we're ready to go.
Okay.
I'm going to change that back to an inside cut now. And auto pass again.
Now let's talk about depth here.
Yes.
There's one very important distinction. A couple different types of mortise and tenon. One major distinction is the blind mortise and tenon versus the through mortise and tenon. So we've cut this tenon here to 0.75 inches deep, 3/4 of an inch deep. This is not going to go all the way through that 1 7/8 inch thick piece that we have. And
Correct.
So that tenon's going to stop about halfway through. We call that a blind tenon because you can't see it come out the other side. And when you cut blind mortise and tenons, you want the tenon to be a little shorter than the mortise so that you have a little bit of give there, room for glue, room for assembly, things like that. Now, on the other hand, you've got through tenons.
Yes. I want to add to this too. It's really important to give yourself a little extra room, and I've done this. We're in the business here of making such tight tenons that we're talking like vacuum fit. So if you don't have a little bit of room behind your tenon, it's not going all the way in. It's
You
going to
gotta
be
push
so
the air somewhere.
perfectly fit.
That's funny. Let's talk about through tenons though here.
Yep.
As a counter example, this is that project that we're going to cut later, and you can see that these paw-shaped tenons, which are adorable, come all the way through this top piece of wood here. And when you do this, you want these tenons to be just a little bit proud of the surface. You can either leave them this way, and it's kind of a nice little texture, or that allows you to trim them down perfectly flush. But if you make those tenons too shallow, you're going to have a really hard time getting the top surface of this part flush and looking good.
Yep.
So that's a little through tenon versus blind tenon fit tip.
All right, so instead of 0.75, I'm going to go down to 0.77.
Okay, that's great.
Add 0.01, 0.02, somewhere in there. And I'm going to use auto pass again.
Let's do it.
But I'm going to Z-touch first.
That's important.
Although it's not totally necessary, it's a good habit to get in anytime you change your part out from workstation is to Z-touch.
Now, welcome to anyone who's new to Shaper Sessions. See, I feel like I can hear the router still going, so I'm actually going to stay quiet for this one. It's going to be quick regardless.
There we go. Now, y'all are here. You saw it. Cut this to a 0-inch offset. We cut this to a 0-inch offset. So they are the exact same size. Most things in life, when they're the exact same size, don't fit exactly like we want them to. This I could probably hammer in because the wood will compress. But I think we want to take just a few thousandths of an inch off.
There's no room for glue, that's for sure.
Right, exactly.
For a show, for a dry fit, could be okay. But if we were making a real joint, you would want to take a few thousandths off.
Yeah. And also different, if it's softer wood, it would probably fit better because it would compress even more as you hammered it in. But let's go ahead and give that a negative 3 thou.
Yeah, that's great. And for reference, for the woodworkers out there who aren't used to working in thousandths, about 4 thousandths of an inch is the thickness of a piece of paper. So we're adding about the thickness of a piece of paper in clearance all the way around this mortise, and that's our glue gap, basically.
Yeah. All right. Not going to bother with auto pass on this one. I'm just going to go straight down so I can quickly and easily turn that off. Let's do that real quick.
All right.
All right, there we go. If you want to hop down
How's
to
it
this.
looking?
Perfect. That is the kind of fit we want.
How are those faces flush to each other?
Yeah.
Pretty good?
Yeah.
It's all about those reference faces. And good on-dimension material prep. There's nothing like a good pair of calipers at your planer to get things down right to an exact thickness.
Yep.
Let's hear that pop one more time. I'm going to hold this up to my mic. Let's see if I can. I don't know if you got that. A little bit of pop. All right. And yeah, let's hold this up on the origin cam, nice and close. Ned's requesting.
Oh, there we go. So nice flat faces.
Yeah, beautiful.
All right, thanks for bearing with me on, everyone. Definitely tensed up there when I had to do math live. Starting to come back to it.
It's not using the router live, it's doing the math live.
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy, I didn't set you up for that
It was
one.
all over the place in my head.
That's a lot of thinking to start with.
I prefer, sometimes I like being able to do this on the tool. That is priceless. But if it's up to me, I'm going to do this beforehand.
And in even dimensions.
And in even dimensions.
In solid round inches.
In studio.
In studio, that's right. So we're going to take a quick break for announcements. And then after the break, hang on, because we've got a great studio demo with our special guest. And I'm going to leak this a little bit. She's Audrey. And she is our designer for studio at Shaper here. So we'll get her on in a bit. But first, a couple of announcements. First off, welcome to everyone who's new. This is Shaper Sessions. We've been just diving straight into it lately, but for anyone who's new, this is where we do live demos of Origin and our tools here at Shaper. That's Origin, Workstation, Plate, our router bits that we love, all that stuff. We do live Q&A at the end of every show. So if you're watching live, make sure to drop your question into the chat. Ted, who's in our chat today, is going to answer as many of those via text as he can. And any questions that deserve a demo, we'll do at the end of the show. So keep asking those questions and we'll get to them, we promise. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Poll question for giveaways. We're going to give away some sweet router bits, including that 5mm O flute that absolutely plows through 19mm material.
Yes. And we'll decide what else we're going to give away. We have
Speaking of giveaway.
Yeah, we have something pretty exciting that just kicked off. What was it, yesterday?
Yesterday.
We are in the midst of our spring deal.
Mm-hmm.
So if you or your friend or your family or anyone, somebody you meet walking down the street, is looking to buy an Origin, now's the time.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking over to the whiteboard here because I make this joke every time, but it's true every time. The list gets longer. It's a $525 added value, and what is included in that?
We get free shipping. We get 4 premium projects, kind of like from top to bottom, get you started. In addition to that, you're going to get 2 free classes, training classes with me. You're going to get 2 additional router bits, so some fun ones that come in addition to the ones that come with the tool.
In addition to.
You're going to get a mini sys, just to organize everything, and you're going to get a roll of double-sided tape.
I could have swore there were 7 things. There's the bundle discount.
The bundle
discount when you buy Origin and Workstation and Plate or any combo of those together. Bundle discount.
It's a killer package. It's a great time to buy, and
it helps us keep doing this
Yeah.
and teaching you stuff, which we love to do. So that's how you can support us.
Yeah.
Speaking of things we love to do, we also love sharing knowledge, not just from ourselves, but from really skilled woodworkers and creators from around the world. So, quick leak on this one. We're dropping a masterclass from Caleb James, incredible chairmaker, next week, early next week, let's say like Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe. So if you want to sign up for that, where do people go?
You're going to go to shapertools.com/masterclass.
Mm-hmm. And if we already have your email address, you'll probably get an email from us at shapertools.com/masterclass. You can also find all of our catalog of masterclasses. We've got Roland Johnson. We've got Matt Kenny, esteemed box maker. We've got Johanna Roa, who's a marquetry and inlay phenom from Germany. And we've got Christoph Noy, a guitar builder who teaches you all about guitar building, not just with Origin, but a lot of his techniques.
Yeah.
They're incredible. I try not to work on the weekends, but I watched the Caleb James pre-edit Saturday morning. It was great. Yeah. So you got that to look forward to.
We're very lucky we get to work with all these awesome people, and now we get to share all that too. It's cool.
Part of the reason we're doing this Mortise and Tenon session is because this chair features some crazy Mortise and Tenon work. So you can see this is the back leg, one of the back legs of this chair. This is the back rail of the chair, and there's some real Mortise and Tenon wizardry going on here. All this joinery is done with Origin. You're going to learn a lot of tips about pattern routing. You're going to learn about chair design just overall, which who doesn't want to know about that?
I think you're also going to learn how to sharpen your card scraper. Is that in there?
That's in there too.
She has a really great way of... If you've never experienced a sharp card scraper, let me tell you, neither have I, because I didn't know how to sharpen it until now.
Yeah, we're learning. We're still learning here too. Let's see. I'm looking over at the whiteboard because we've really got so much today. Yeah. We've got a shop tour coming up. Before we play the shop tour, we have a request. Send us your shop tours. We do the poll question and the giveaway every show, but the one way to maximize your chances of winning something from us is to send us a shop tour. The shop tours that we play, we're going to send you something. We've been sending barbell packs for the last couple of shows, but I think for this show, I do want to send one of those 5mm O flute router bits because I'm just so jazzed on it.
Yeah, no,
from
they're
using
great.
it this afternoon.
After you use it, you're like, where has this been?
Yeah, I know.
So the template killer.
Send us your shop tour, quick 1 to 3 minutes or so, to sessions@shapertools.com. And then also, one last request, a new thing. We just added reviews to our website. So if you have one of our products and love it as much as we do, please drop by shapertools.com and leave us a review. It would mean a ton to us.
It's really exciting to read everyone's thoughts and opinions on the tool and share them with people that are looking to buy the tool themselves.
Okay.
Inspire others.
That was a mouthful. Let's play a shop tour to take a quick break. This is a really cool one. It's a nice little shop. Last week we showed a huge shop. So this week I thought we'd show a nice little shop. Let's pull that up.
All right.
And this shop is just a nice little area off of a carport here. And the thing that I love about this shop is that it's almost like a doctor's office.
Is it
inside.
separate from the house as well?
It's separate from the house.
That is so
and
clutch.
It is so clean in here. It's like everything is a precision instrument.
Gotta get closer to the screen here. Beautiful.
Got some nice shop-made signs. Couple different origin stations going on. Nice drill press over in the corner. You know, you don't need much. We call Origin kind of a keystone tool in the shop in that it can do pretty much anything you need. You can figure out how to do it, at least.
Overhead dust collection for Origin. Mm-hmm. Very good idea.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of drawers. I love good storage. All right.
Sweet.
Thank you. I forgot the name of the gentleman who sent in that video, but we are going to look it up.
Thank you.
And thank you, and we'll announce that at the end of the show, and we'll send you an email.
Yeah.
Okay, so last but not least, we always do our product announcements, and for those product announcements, our big announcement this week is some studio upgrades. And so, Audrey, come on down.
We'll clear some space.
Yeah, let's clear some space. Absolutely.
Whoa, I can hear.
Uh-oh.
That's all right.
Might have to switch you stools. Yeah, I'll take yours. Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks. It's good to be here.
So what is it that you do here at Shaper?
Yeah. So I am a user interface, user experience designer for Studio at Shaper, and I've been doing that for a little over a year now.
Cool. And I heard before the show that you studied at MIT, which I just love bragging about our colleagues here. So I would love to hear about just what that experience was like.
Yeah, well, MIT is nice. There's no shortage of people who really love to make things in creative, weird ways. I felt pretty at home there. I actually spent a little bit of time as a teaching assistant for some classes, from some product design classes, and I had to teach Illustrator. I had to do Illustrator tutorials, and I think that has helped me in this job a little bit, at least just to appreciate the difficulty of design software and try to do better.
Yeah. And how did you get from there to here?
Yeah, so we actually had an Origin in our shop, so I knew about Shaper from that, and I saw the job listing for, hey, we need someone to help us design better design tools, and I was like, that sounds awesome. That's pretty much the whole story.
All right, awesome. Well, we brought you here to not just teach us about Studio, but announce the product updates for the month. So what do we have?
Yeah, so the latest updates are calculations in input boxes. So just maybe it's great that you had that difficulty earlier, because this update will be great for you. You don't have to think so hard about what 13/64 is, or even 1/16. And it'll also convert units for you, so we'll show you that in a bit. We've also got some selection improvements. So we've put in a new layering system. The smaller objects get selected first, and it's a subtle but super useful change.
That's awesome.
And we've got a more robust sync system. So Studio behind the scenes is always saving your files for you. That's why you can get it up on the Origin so fast.
Instantly.
It's incredible. It really is. We were tweaking files before the show, and Audrey was messing around in the computer, And I was routing over there, and she said, file's done, and I updated it, and there it was. It was great.
And we improved that, so it's more robust now. We're hoping it works better in more different Wi-Fi environments, and yeah, we're just always going to work on improving everything about Studio.
Awesome. Thanks, Audrey.
Right. Thank you.
So we have 2 demos that we're doing today, right? The first one is adding that pocket that Jake kind of showed in Origin, but the safe way with Shapeshifter. And then we're also going to talk about how to make kind of a fun tenon like we did for this dog bowl, using, that would be Find Art, right? Okay. I see you've got the bowl stand pulled up, but I also made that Studio Tenon file in Hub on this account, so we could either pull that up or we could start from scratch.
Yeah, I can. It's really quick. I'll just I'll do it from this file so you can see how we used the duplicate design feature to branch off of what you're working on.
Yeah,
that's a great start. So, Ned, let's get that laptop cam going. All right, we're in.
Okay, great. Yeah, so let's say we've made this ahead of time, and like Russ said, you know, this little paw here, I just got it from Find Art. You can get a lot of options here. I think before you make your tenon file, it's good to go into plan mode. Plan mode is sort of like what does Origin see? And you can select the paw and holding the shift key down here so that I can select all the pieces of it. And I can set it to an outside cut path, and that's sort of letting me know how the tenon is going to be. And here, the default is 1/4 inch, and clearly there's some spaces where it's going to run into itself.
Yeah.
So I think we'll use the 4mm bit that you guys have, and I don't want to change my units, and I don't know what 4mm is in inches, so I'll just type in 4mm.
Oh, hold on, we lost the laptop. Let's do that again.
Yeah. Okay, so this was set to 1/4 inch, and it's running into itself. We want it to be 4mm, and now, since the latest update, you can type in your different unit in the input box, hit enter, and it'll convert it for you.
That's incredible.
Sweet.
So it's nice just to double check that with plan mode that it's going to work out. I'm going to set this back up to pocket. And we'll go back to design mode, and then now we can get our file ready for the tenon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate the design, and I can rename it right here. I'll just call it Pet Bowl Tenon, and then I can delete everything but one of these tenons, and it's almost there already.
Yeah.
So here's where we show the special trick in Studio so that you can make a pocket where you know you're not going to run into your very precious tenon. So we know that this is our stock. We're using a dowel, which is kind of fun. And I want to make it bigger to fit my bit. So I'm going to make a copy of it. I'm going to put it back on itself. And I want it to scale around all sides. So actually, I'm using a special anchor in this case, and I'm going to set it back to the center so that it scales on all sides. And I can go to my diameter, and I can say, plus, we're using the 4mm bit, so plus 4mm times 2. And there we go.
Nice.
Now we've got the bit size around the whole object.
And that's so that router bit can go up to and over the edge.
Yes.
And cut the whole thing. We're completely confident. That's
yeah, because we're going to set up a pocket, and the pocket's on Origin so that you can come back in with a really nice clean cut. They offset off of the edges. So we know we want to go beyond with the pocket, but we don't want to cut our tenon. So we're going to grab this paw and the new boundary that we set up. We're going to bring that into Shapeshifter, and I can just select the outer region here. That's what I want to make the pocket of. And I could say make shape, but I know you're going to pocket this out, and then you're going to come back around to make the clean sort of outer cut just along the paw. So you want to keep that paw
Yeah.
So I'll say keep existing shapes. And I can make shape. And now I can go to plan mode. I can set that to be a pocket. And there we go. We've got our design. We can even go, oh wait. These are still set to pocket. Thank you, review mode. We can set these to outside.
That's what it's for. Yeah, that's great.
And now we can go to review mode and we can see,
So cool.
our cut is going to be what we wanted it to be.
And being able to tell that our 4mm bit can fit in there with no interference. It's going to come out great. Sweet.
Sweet. So that's going to automatically sync to Origin. I do want to reiterate, it's important that Origin works not just with Studio, but with any digital design tool, or you don't even need a digital design tool, and you can design your Mortise and Tenons on tool, like we did earlier today. So we're showing you Studio because it's ours and we love it, and we made it specifically for things like this. But you could do the same thing in Illustrator, for example, or Fusion 360, or any tool of your choice.
Yeah, there's no judgment here on what design tool of choice is your favorite. We're just trying to make it easier for more people.
Yep, absolutely. Cool.
Beautiful. Should I get set up to make
Let's
this
get
tenon?
that set up. Yeah, so speaking of fixtures, right, we were talking about fixtures earlier. We have a specific fixture for this round dowel. And while Jake is setting up Workstation, I'll just show that off over here. That's this V block. So a V block is kind of like a set of 90-degree V shapes, and inside that V you can put a round piece of pretty much any diameter. It could be small and it would nest even farther in toward the V, or that diameter could be large and it would nest farther out away from that V. So it's really adaptable, and the way that we're going to grid this, since it's kind of unconventional, we're going to grid 2 points on one side of the V to make our x-axis, and then 1 point on the other side of the V to make that y-axis. And so our grid is going to be, you could think of it as a skew by 45 degrees, but what that allows us to do is if you look at it that way, that looks pretty square. If you look at it that way, that really allows you to do that math straight from the edges to the center of that circle, which is really convenient.
Sweet. I've already done all this, so I'm not going to do it again. And it has those pins.
Registration pins.
These registration pins, so it's going to slip right onto my workstation, and I can trust that that is exactly where it was when I cut the other tenons.
And yes, there is a file for this on Shaper Hub. Yeah, I love that snap into place for that fixture.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, how did I do this?
This is what you wanted that oak block for.
That's
but
okay.
any old straight edge would do, right?
Yeah. So because we're kind of off of the edge of workstation, I'm going to use another piece as my 0 reference. Make sure I have my grain oriented nicely.
Tastefully, right?
Tastefully. Just nestle it up there.
It's a sign of a true craftsman.
These clamps are a little funny because I'm not able to actually clamp directly on my piece.
Yeah, if I were to remake this fixture, I would make it a little bit smaller.
Just a tad. But it's actually amazing how well this, even though they're not clamping straight down on it, this thing's not going anywhere. Beautiful.
Okay, and I forgot to say something, but
Yes.
I was going to say, the reason why we're doing this pet bowl stand today is actually because it is my tutorial video for Studio, and I've been getting questions about, like, oh, how did you actually make this? So if you are new to Studio and you're curious about it, you can see the tutorial video here in the help menu. You go to YouTube videos, and it's there. So if you wanted to know how to make the first part of this, just watch that video.
That's
Great.
awesome.
That's awesome.
Okay. I'm ready to go. I do want to show at least what my workspace looks like and how I made this grid. So if you want to hop down to Origin screen for me, please. Thank you. You can see that my grid is tilted 45. That's just because I went up here and I touched off, or I probed this face first. So I did probe 1, 2, and 3 over here, and that kind of twisted everything, which is great for our sake because it allowed me to place this file directly on top of our stock. And I need a 4mm bit. This is the bit that we kind of teased last week or 2 weeks ago.
Did we?
I think so.
Okay.
I think we talked about it.
It's coming up. It's coming soon.
Yeah.
I know we keep teasing, and at some point we got to release the router bits, but it is coming soon. This is a 4mm long reach router bit. So if you've been, if you've felt like the 1/8 inch by 1/2 inch router bit that comes stock with Origin isn't reaching far enough for fine detail work like this one's a little bit wider in diameter, but it really does have quite a lot of length on it. I think it's a 15mm cutting flute length, but then that usable shank is probably double that, I would say.
So you can do a 15mm finish pass depth-wise, but if you want to go deeper than that.
But then you could step it down again and do another 15mm finish pass.
We're going to do kind of a fun... the way I'm going to cut this is interesting. I'm going to pocket in 2 steps because of that 15mm flute length. And then I'm going to use auto pass to just go in 3 passes around each of these little elements. And it's going to leave a killer finish. I'm really excited.
That's going to be auto pass with no roughing offset, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let me get this set up. Z-touch. Set everything to 0. All right, and that gives me a nice amount of space to get in there.
Okay, well, we'll step off to the side here. Let's see, I think I've heard the router going pretty loud the last couple times, so note to the switchboard. Let's make sure we turn that router sound off. Yeah, there we go. That's nice. You know, so for anyone new to Origin, we've got a couple of cut types, right? We haven't talked much about this on this show. We have a couple other more introductory shows where we really go into that. But the gist of it, this is pocket mode here. And what pocket mode does is it allows Origin to operate kind of like a regular plunge router where that spindle is locked in place until you get to the boundary of that pocket. And that's when that autocorrect action kicks in and prevents you from overcutting. Pocket mode also includes a offset that is calculated based on the diameter of the router bit that you're using. So with this 4mm router bit, that's going to be something like a 2mm roughing offset that's baked in. And so that's just enough material for Jake to come back after doing all of this pocketing and do those outside cuts to just finish up the outsides of those tenon pieces, because there's 5 pieces to this tenon. I guess we'll call it the big pad and the 4 toe pads. A couple of pocketing passes there, and then we'll go into that finishing pass that's going to be with auto pass to full depth. And now the nice thing about this tenon design is that since we have that boundary going over the edge, Jake doesn't have to do a bunch of little pockets. That boundary around the edge kind of connects the whole thing, and he can tie it all together, along with getting a nice finish on that outside edge of the dowel, as opposed to the circle that just went right up to it. And you know, when you go right up to an edge, there's always the question of, well, am I 1,000th over the edge or 1,000th shy of the edge? And you can get that little thin piece of wood paper dangling. This helps save you that, so you have less sanding to do at the end. You just go right over the edge completely. It's pretty nice. Like a little bit more pocketing here. Alright, you can see Jake now is switching to those outside cuts, and with auto pass he's going to be able to zing around these nice and quickly, and Origin is automatically going to ramp those steps down to the final depth rather than in pocket mode where Jake had to enter those depths manually. Origin is tracking that dotted line, which is the we'll call it the toolpath generated, or the template based on the design that Audrey made in studio. And as long as Jake gets kind of close to that dotted line, as long as that dotted line is in the big circle that you see on Origin's screen, that router is going to kind of autocorrect a little bit to keep the center of the spindle on the line. And that's what gives us those perfect fits and line on line cuts every time. If for whatever reason Jake, hits a knot or something and that throws him a bit too far off his path, Origin will automatically retract and save his work. And that's why we do these live demos, because there's really nothing like seeing it actually happen. You can watch pre-recorded YouTube videos all day, but when you see it actually happen, I feel like it hits home how just incredible this thing is. It hits me every time. I got the hand signal for one more. And we test fit these before the show. We said cut the mortises first and then, cut the tenons first and then cut the mortises. Cut the tenons first and then cut the mortises. But we test fit this before the show, and so we know that this is going to fit pretty well. All right, we're hopping back in.
Oh, so cute.
That was satisfying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were trucking through that.
That looks so good.
So that finished pass, you noticed I went in without a rough offset. I just went straight to 0. That's because I took the majority of the material out already using that pocket. So I wasn't worried about it. And I was doing pretty deep passes. 2 reasons. 1, this bit is awesome. And 2, we're cutting into end grain, which is a little bit more forgiving, given that all the fibers are sticking straight up. And let's just give a straight on view there of that. There we go.
Sounds
Cool.
great.
All right. Now, Audrey,
Oh my goodness.
the guest always does the test fit. And if you need the mallet, I brought the mallet.
I'm trying to do this so that the camera can see.
Oh, yeah. That's really good.
Nice. What
The
is
last
that?
little bit might need a bit of help.
Yes, it does. Let's do that.
Here you go.
There we go. Sorry.
Perfect.
There we go. Yeah, that's great. We love hammering live on air. We do it every time. That's it.
I maybe have a tiny bit left to go, but that's okay. It looks great. I'm so happy you guys have that 4mm bit too, because it really makes it easier to cut the weird shapes that you can find on Find Art. They're usually more intricate, and so I was glad it fit. Otherwise I would have had to go through and maybe pick a different paw with more spacing. But this is great.
Yeah.
That was really great. And, it's the kind of the kind of craft that your dog will really appreciate. They're
Yes.
right up in it.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thanks, everybody. See you next time.